You can also go for the treasure chest and stuff. Treasure chest is worth more than the bag, which is worth more than the single. Nope, 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 nope. Back off!
What the fuck is that? Why would it do that? Why, I only get one go?
I think I was wiggling pretty good.
Was that, but why? It didn't say anything about me only getting to go once.
Are those results?
This is bullshit. Fuck this game.
We only have 48 turns to go.
God.
I have what I'd like to consider an addiction to a game called Mario Party. All of them, to be precise. At least, all of them that warrant the title. Just as Super Mario RPG is a turn-based RPG with interactive elements, Mario Party is a dice-rolling board game with interactive elements. Yet another Mario-fication of a traditional genre. Can that be a term now? Do I get to license that? Turning down a game of Mario Party is next to impossible. I can't get enough of its unique brand of screw you and everything you stand for. Hell, I'm so interested in the series, its history, and the technicalities behind each game's development that I watch tool-assisted speedruns of each game for fun. As such, I'm crazy enough to want to figure out why. What makes each game, each board, each minigame tick? How much influence does luck have on Mario Party? And does that influence ultimately matter? How much control do players have over winning? What makes for a good minigame? Which boards work to the strengths of Mario Party? Most importantly, what are the strengths of Mario Party? Too many questions, a multitude of answers. I hope you'll join me on a quest to analyze every Mario Party to get to the bottom of why the series is so fun, heartbreaking, and addicting. Welcome to Chance Time.
Chance Time!
It's basically like Mark Brown's Boss Keys, but regarding a topic that is far less interesting. This episode of Chance Time will focus on the first Mario Party for the Nintendo 64, which received fairly mixed responses across the board. Game Informer left particularly scathing comments like, Mario Party is worthless, and it seriously hurts to play. Paul, aptly titled The Game Professor, said it was the perfect game for the under 6 crowd, though I'm sure we can trust the guy who gave Castlevania 64 an 8.75 the previous page of the very same issue. I consider this game to be along the lines of Zelda. Yeah. Safe to say not everyone is a fan of Mario Party. There are doubtless some out there who have only heard it as a, quote, friendship killer. Now, I feel like this sentiment stems from popular YouTubers and internet personalities playing and getting really unlucky. See any of the streams from Giant Bomb.
All right, here we go.
Oh, but now you're only 2 coins. Oh, and you got...
Yeah, it's...
So you just got a bunch of money just to lose it immediately? Probably. Oh, look, you're going to get a star anyway, Jeff. Look.
Oh, okay, all right.
He's going to give you one. He's nice. Oh, wait, you don't have enough.
All right, see ya.
That rotates back to Toad, who has nothing to say.
Just drops you
It's
off a cloud. Sorry, dude.
Nah, you should have thought about this shit a little more, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, Jeff, you're back to the start. You could have not even shown up and then walked in right now. And
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And your hand would feel better.
Yeah, that would be it. Oh, cool. Yeah. Great. I'm having a great time. This is a real fun party, you guys.
Hey, I love Giant Bomb, I love Jeff, and I love all of these streams. It perhaps makes the best case for avoiding 50-turn Mario Party like the plague. If this is where you're at, stick with me. Let me blow your mind as an avid fan with hundreds of hours under his belt. Yes, hundreds. The goal of Mario Party is to collect the most stars. Stars are obtained a variety of ways, the most consistent of which is at a star space. The location of the star space will vary from board to board. The general rule is that each star is worth 20 coins, and once you buy a star, the star space moves to another preset location. There are other ways of obtaining stars, but this will likely be your main goal for each board. Book it to that star space. Boards consist of many different spaces, which each have different effects. A blue space will give you 3 coins, while a red space will take away 3. A question mark space called a happening space will activate an event specific to that board. A blue space shaped like a star will activate a single-player minigame chosen at random. A mushroom space will spawn a dice block containing both a mushroom and a poison mushroom. The mushroom will give you a second roll, and the poison mushroom will cause you to lose your next turn. Visiting the boo space will allow you to steal coins from another player for free, or steal a star from another player for 50 coins. A Bowser space will do one of many bad things, ranging from specific Bowser minigames that take away your coins when you lose, to straight up stealing your coins for no discernible reason. If you happen to meet Bowser on the board, he'll take a set amount of coins from you, usually 20. Finally, an exclamation mark space will activate Chance Time, where one player will give something to another player, chosen at random. This one's quite infamous, as you might imagine. Different boards have different rules and specific events, but the blue and red spaces, star spaces, happening spaces, and chance time spaces are consistent among them all. There are typically 20 turns in a game of Mario Party, though you can pick a different amount depending on the game.
Yeah, now that the stars have been collected, what will happen on this board? Oh, it's stupid.
Jeff says don't do it. A turn consists of a roll from each of the 4 players, the order of which is determined by dice block at the beginning. Everyone is given 10 coins to start with, and then it's off to the races. This is where things get interesting. You'd imagine that rolls are very important to Mario Party, correct? There's a star space, and your goal is to reach it before the other players. Except, this isn't the only way to win. At the end, when the results are tallied, 3 bonus stars are thrown into the mix. The minigame star will be awarded to the player who earned the most minigame wins, or the most coins within minigames to be more specific. The happening star is given to the player who landed on the most happening spaces, and the coin star is given to the player who had the highest coin record at any one point. Let's take 2 hypothetical players, Mario and Luigi. Luigi has an outstanding lead, 5 stars and 50 coins. Mario trails behind with not a single star and 160 coins. It's the last turn, Mario lands on Boo and steals a star from Luigi, giving up 50 coins in the process. That leaves him with 1 star, 110 coins, and Luigi with 4 stars, 50 coins. It's alright though, that was the final act of the turn, and after a simple minigame, Luigi takes home the gold. The bonus stars are dealt. Mario gets the minigame star for his exceptional skill. Fine enough, but Luigi's lead still isn't shaken. Mario gets the happening star for getting lucky enough to land on the most happening spaces. Dicey, but Luigi's victory is assured, right? Mario gets the coin star for being tactical, hanging onto his coins at all costs. Final totals between the two: Luigi has 4 stars, 50 coins, Mario has 4 stars, 110 coins. In the case of a tie, the highest current coin total wins. Mario is the superstar. This is the linchpin of Mario Party, the toss-up that defines its appeal and the core of the scrutiny with which every single Mario Party game is analyzed. See, you might hear a lot of people describe Mario Party as a game of luck. Get high rolls and you'll win, which is often phrased in a negative context. That's where you get stuff like friendship killers and other fun descriptors. Bad things can happen at seemingly random, vendettas can form, the tides will turn at an arbitrary rate, but what if I told you that it isn't so unpredictable? To some extent, there is a strategy to Mario Party. Not one as strict and suffocating as Monopoly, rather something I like to call survival strategies. Nothing is ever guaranteed in Mario Party. You could want for a space and roll 1 too short. You could plan for a bonus star only to lose it to another player. You could shoot for the stars or land on a Bowser space. You can't determine what roll you're gonna get, at least not at this point in the series. Your best bet is to work with what you're given. Roll a 10, evaluate your options. Count the number of spaces ahead of you. Maybe there's a fork in the road. Which fork would be a better choice? Is another player closer to the star than you? Do they have a better chance of getting there before you? Maybe taking the path farther away from the star will be more advantageous, since you'll be passing the Boo space, which nets you a free coin steal. And you also land on a happening space, not only causing a board event to occur, but increasing your happening total. Another player gets the choice between a happening space and a chance time. You haven't landed on a single happening space all game, so trying to catch up to the other players just before the end seems like a fruitless endeavor. On the flip side, a chance time could turn the game around and secure a win for you. Sure, it could have the opposite effect, but you're already in last place and need a Hail Mary. These are survival strategies, and we use them not necessarily to game the system, but to survive the RNG. This working in tandem with what I consider the skill-oriented core, the minigames. The fact that doing well at each minigame could potentially net you a star while giving you additional coins and preventing other players from gaining coins at the same time is another fitting counterbalance to the RNG. As such, I propose that Mario Party is a balancing act between these three elements: strategy, skill, and luck. Luck can be a powerful element, but because of the other two elements pulling against it, rarely will it ever be a deciding factor. As we saw in the example earlier, Luigi was on track to win purely because he bought the most stars, which inadvertently means he got the best rolls, which also means he got the best luck. However, Mario was able to pull it back by planning ahead and using his minigame skill to his advantage. He didn't survive simply because he was lucky. Not solely, anyway. Let's mold this into the foundation of the Mario Party experience and my analysis of it. It will become the thesis for this entire project, so keep these questions in the back of your mind as we move forward. What is the balance between skill, strategy, and luck? How does that balance affect the play experience? And most importantly, does that balance make for a rewarding, competitive, and fun Mario Party?
So I need to roll big and get up there right now.
Yeah. Wait.
Whoa. Where did that come from?
I think you got a random warp block, which is probably going to trade you spaces.
Hey, Mario Party, am I right?
I forgot on this one that just happens randomly.
And it just
Fuck all video games forever.
And it just.
Mario Party 1 is, in many respects, the first of its kind. Board games have been around for a long time, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a video game version of a board game. Hudson Soft had their work cut out for them. Not only did they need to make a set of boards with the same appeal as other board games, they also had to craft an engaging set of mini-games to add an interactive element. Obviously they were successful, but it's important to acknowledge how easy it is to get something like this wrong. Dozens of Mario Party clones have been attempted over the years, and almost none of them are good. A bunch of movie and television licenses that wanted a quick and easy family game and picked Mario Party as a seemingly easy template. For that much at least, I'm proud of what Hudson pulled off here, and while I have a lot of respect for it kickstarting a series I love to death, I'm not gonna pull my punches. It can sometimes be strangely constructed. The main attraction is Party Mode, with 8 boards to pick from. When evaluating these boards, I'm not gonna blast any of them for being too gimmicky or whatever. I'm gonna refer back to that sense of balance on both a micro and macro level. What balance do the selection of boards promote individually and as a whole? Let's start simple. DK's Jungle Adventure is a good starting board. The star space moves to preset locations, thwomps will block certain pathways leading to situations where a player may need to spend 10 coins for a chance at a star, coin stones only open when you have 20 coins, and happening spaces spawn a large boulder that will move everybody in its path. The simplicity of this board usually means that players will have a decently high coin total, unless they get really unlucky with thwomp placements and red spaces. Boo is in a location that every player must eventually pass to make a full cycle, so coin and star steals are quite common. Since looping around the board is mostly painless and the opportunity to star steal is so prevalent, usually this board allows for high scoring games. The only things here out of your control are the happening spaces and Boo steals, which in turn makes it one of the best traditional Mario Party boards. There's an element of chance and a ton of junctions that allow you to strategize. While it doesn't break new ground, it's safe enough that you can almost always have a fun time. Comparatively, Mario's Rainbow Castle is less traditional. This board is set up like a circuit. You'll be funneled into one endpoint and then spit out back at the start space. There are a few intersections to give you an element of choice and a lot of psychological warfare in regards to the central gimmick. Bowser and Toad await you at the end, switching back and forth once their respective stars are collected. Bowser will give you a star for 40 coins. God, that is such a fucking stupid name. And Toad will give you a star for 20. A lot of people aren't a fan of this idea, but I think it's a cool twist on the traditional formula. Even though in the context of the first game, it wasn't really a twist because a formula hadn't yet been established. Though you can't necessarily control your rolls, you can pick which paths to take, which in turn affects how quickly you'll reach the end. If Luigi's in front of you, there's a judgment call to make. Do I take the left turn for a quicker path to the end, or the right turn for a longer path? The answer will likely depend on how many players are around you, who's closest to the end, and which character is giving out a star at the moment. You need to think ahead and guess at the amount of switches before you'll reach the end, and though you can never guarantee you'll be correct, again, these are survival strategies, and ones that make the board far more interesting. Maybe it sways a little too close to luck, but there's enough of the other two elements here that I can excuse a few bad rolls in favor of a unique board gimmick. DK's Jungle Adventure and Mario's Rainbow Castle are fairly similar. They both loop around, they both have intersections, they both have Boo, the only difference being the way in which you collect stars. Even just one little twist can radically change the pacing of a board. Yoshi's Tropical Island is a blend of both. The gimmick revolves around Bowser and Toad switching spaces whenever a player lands on a happening space. They're on either sides of the two islands, which you can cross by paying a Whomp a set amount of coins that increase based on how many coins have been funneled into them by other players. It's a really neat board that can be a little luck-based, yes, but there are 7 happening spaces spread out across the board, so the chances of landing on them over and over and causing madness isn't ridiculously high. I really like how the Whomps can change up the flow of the board if you have the money to burn. Imagine funneling 40 coins into one of these. It would be devastating, and you could essentially trap your opponents on an island as they both only have one exit point. There are a few chance time spaces to shake things up. Boo is on the right island for a coin and star steals. This board has everything. You can block people off, you can lose all your stars to a chance time, you can get screwed or saved by a happening space. It takes the gimmick of Mario's Rainbow Castle, makes it a little more random, creates another potential star space, and places them on 2 loops instead of 1. What Hudson did right with this first Mario Party is create a set of boards that have a good balance, but aren't too afraid to tweak that balance to make boards that all feel distinct from one another. You pick DK's Jungle Adventure for a simple, skill-oriented experience. You pick Mario's Rainbow Castle for a mix between strategy and luck. And you pick Yoshi's Tropical Island for a unique blend of the two. Unfortunately, this approach to board design is a double-edged sword. I appreciate that Hudson were still trying to figure out what this kind of game even was and what worked the best, but it ended up creating a few duds. The 3 boards I've discussed are by far my preferred boards whenever I boot up the original, and the only other 2 that I sometimes consider are Peach's Birthday Cake and Wario's Battle Canyon. Peach's Birthday Cake is an okay idea, but it's brought down by how simple and luck-based it is. It feels like an inferior version of Mario's Rainbow Castle. Baby Bowser forces you into a lottery with only one of the 4 choices being a winner. Of course, a win to Baby Bowser is sending you to a red space, Bowser space, nightmare. The other 3 are losers because they open the path to the only star space at the top of the cake. This is your primary source for collecting stars, with the secondary being happening spaces that allow you to buy a piranha plant that will steal a star from those who land on it. These ideas sound okay on paper, they're just a bit impractical. Mario's Rainbow Castle is a very similar fixed star space gimmick, but at least there you were guaranteed either Bowser or Toad when you got there. Barring the occasional happening space, you'll always know when either Bowser is there or Toad is there. Peach's Birthday Cake has a luck-based lottery that is bad for the one person who picks the winning lot, but great for the other 3 since the lottery doesn't reshuffle until all 4 lots are picked. Essentially meaning that this spot is designated to give one player a hard time occasionally. It is a very small board, which in theory would allow the Piranha Plant spaces more use, yet I rarely find this to be the case. It is ridiculously expensive to buy a Piranha Plant, 30 coins to be exact, more than it costs to buy a star. Not only that, it will only activate when someone lands on that specific space and will disappear after 1 use. You're gambling your money away hoping that someone will land on your happening space out of the other 13. Why would you risk 30 coins on the chance that someone will randomly land on your space out of the literal dozens of other spaces when you could save that money for another star purchase? I feel the same about Wario's Battle Canyon. It has less going against it in that there are no underutilized or underpowered gimmicks here, but it is weighted far more towards being skilled. The central gimmick revolves around 5 squares around the board, and you travel between 4 of them by cannon. These cannons change direction after landing on a happening space and spit you out at a seemingly random space on one of those squares. The 5th square, which consists of solely single-player minigame spaces in Bowser, can only be accessed by paying the fly guy at the top right square 10 coins. Passing Bowser will cause him to fire a cannon at a random square and take coins away from anyone on it. This one seems pretty cool, right? The gimmick isn't too obnoxious, you can actually figure out which spaces it cycles through and in what order when shooting out of the cannon, and you never have to see Bowser if you don't want to. What's the issue? It's too skill intensive, which may sound dumb at first, but hear me out. The cannons cycle between predetermined spaces at the same rate and frequency, so you could find out what that order is and press the button at the correct time. To do this would be asking a hell of a lot from the player, and would require many board refreshes to get right. I can admit that maybe if I had played this board numerous times, I'd be able to game the system and land exactly where I want, but for casual, even hardcore play, this thing moves far too fast to initially land where you want. In effect, this becomes a luck-based mechanic until you play the board so many times that you just know when to press the button to get what you want. And when you know how to do it correctly, the entire board turns into a straight line. Even then, there are a couple happening spaces that can completely screw with your momentum, a fly guy that can bring you to him whenever another player spends 10 coins, and if someone dares to enter the Bowser circle, he'll fire away at a random square. Again, I can't say any of this is bad, and some of it can be quite fun when you know what you're doing, but it leaves just a little bit too much up to chance for it to be one of my go-to boards. These last three, the ones the game deems the most difficult, are where my first questions come in. The idea of difficulty in a Mario Party game is hard to quantify. Is being more luck-based difficult? If there are more chance time spaces, is it more difficult? Is it more difficult because you don't have as many opportunities to strategize? I think the problem you'll run into consistently with these questions is that they aren't the right questions. You shouldn't be asking, what can I do to screw up the balance, or you're just looking for trouble. Mario's Rainbow Castle might be less balanced than some of the other boards, but it maintains a baseline level of strategy and skill that none of these last three boards have aside from the bonus stars. Luigi's Engine Room is difficult because it has a set of blue and red doors that open and close each turn, each happening space, and each 20 coin purchase. You start on the bottom right, move towards the middle, and pick accordingly from several different paths based on which doors are open. It sounds like this would present several opportunities to plan ahead, though if you ask me, it's too hectic for any grand strategy to ultimately matter. If you don't roll enough to make that red door by the end of the turn, if someone lands on one of the 5 happening spaces or visits one of the guaranteed switch stations near the start space, it'll completely screw you over. Factor in the fact that every single player can do this to any of the other players, and what this board results in is a series of screwed plans and endless death loops. When I played this board for footage, the star space ended up past Bowser, who takes 20 of your coins no matter what. Instead of making it so that there's a chance you can get the star without passing him, maybe by placing a set of red and blue doors that open up to either Bowser or the star, you must pass Bowser to get to the star space. And the turnaround is so damn quick that you'll be in a state of limbo unless you get really lucky with minigames, low rolls, and evading a guaranteed boo coin steal every single time a player enters a warp pipe. You have to walk into that lower left section when the red door is open when you have at least 40 coins, and you have to hope to God no one will steal coins from you to prevent that purchase. Bowser's Magma Mountain's definition of difficulty is random dice rolls. You can take shortcuts by paying 10 coins and clearing a dice roll. You're forced to do this on the final intersection, with one path giving you Boo and the other Bowser, who on this board can dice roll into a star steal. You could potentially roll bad on the intersection, giving you Bowser, and then roll bad on Bowser, costing you a star. All out of your control. Additionally, the happening spaces make every blue space into a red space for 2 whole turns. As this is a hard board, every star space will turn into a chance time space when bought, and all of this combined makes for a luck-based nightmare. I sometimes get legitimately angry playing this board. You can lose a bunch of your coins to red spaces or chance times or boo, practically anything. You could fail a shortcut, optional or mandatory, lose even more coins, lose a chance at buying a star. This feels like the most luck-based out of any board in the entire game, and it sucks because I really enjoy the shortcut mechanic. You pay 10 coins for a chance at a shortcut to the star space. Luck-based, yes, but you don't have to use most of these. You can save your coins and take your chances the long way around. That final mandatory one, however, is so punishing that being locked behind 2 dice rolls is absurd. Your survival strats aren't going to help jack squat if you lose a mandatory set of dice rolls or get screwed by the high chance time count. Is this what a difficult stage is? Low scores, getting screwed constantly by luck? Well, Eternal Star is apparently a hard stage, but it doesn't really live up to either of those definitions. There are 7 baby Bowsers spread across chunks of a giant star with warp spaces that take you to random locations. Stars cost 20 coins, but you have to win a dice roll against baby Bowser to take home that star. The catch is that you will always get an 8 to 10 dice block, making it very easy to take a star with a very slim chance that you'll lose a star of your own. Both Boo and Bowser exist on their own spaces, and when passing Bowser, he will automatically take a star no matter what, then shuffle the teleporters. I do like the teleporting mechanic. Though it is technically random at the beginning, they stay the same until Bowser switches them. You can take the routes that you know are safe if they've been used by other players, and having more than one star space means that this is a much higher scoring game than the other two. Unfortunately, that automatic star steal for taking a bad teleport and the chance that you can lose a star to a dice roll, however slim the chance might be, is a little annoying. Not nearly as annoying as Magma Mountain in the engine room, but still frustrating nonetheless. Since your chances of losing a star are quite low, the games end up with a higher score than usual, but the sticking point for me is that the board is really dull. You'll know where the teleporters lead after just one person uses it, and from that point, it's just about getting lucky and rolling high. The board is in the shape of a star, so crisscrossing is common. It's a small board with nothing going on that doesn't pull anything from you. No strategy, no skill, no luck. You're basically handed stars on a silver platter. What gets me here is that Eternal Star has nothing more going for it than a board like DK's Jungle Adventure except for more chance time spaces. If you take each part of the star and put them all together based on where the teleporters lead, you just have a fairly basic board with a bunch of meaningless intersections that all loop back to start. None of this helps me to form an idea of what difficulty is supposed to mean. 2 of my favorite boards are considered easy, but in what way are they easy? Mario's Rainbow Castle is easy, but it's quite luck-based and can very easily lead to death spirals. Is it the mere fact that you can think your way out of bad situations? Is it the act of removing player control? I think you get the point. Difficulty in Mario Party is undefinable. This selection of boards too often sway in the direction of luck and make for some boring, simple board experiences. The good boards are indeed good, but when there are only 3 of them that can produce truly fun turnouts, I can't say these boards were a tremendous success.
Wow.
That is only one aspect of party mode, however. Think of Mario Party like a chemical reaction. The boards are one element and the minigames are another. Mash them together and the end result will often affect how satisfying every board can possibly be. Minigames aren't the only determining factor, but I would say they're often the most important. There's an entire bonus star linked to winning enough of these minigames, and they're the prime source of income, meaning it could also be indirectly linked to another bonus star. Needless to say, the better the minigames, the better the Mario Party. I think the original has a great set of minigames that fill in the cracks left by some of the weaker boards. Minigames that future titles will repeatedly take inspiration from, or in some cases steal outright. We do have to address the elephant in the room: control stick spinning. Here is perhaps the reason Mario Party 1 has never seen a virtual console release. The control stick spinning minigames make up 1 in 10 of the minigame roster, 5 of the 50 total. Castaways, Tug-O-War, Paddle Battle, Deep Sea Divers, and Pedal Power gave some players blisters and other injuries to their palms. You can always spin the stick with your thumb, something Nintendo themselves recommended, though it's hard to deny the speed boost you get when you use your palm. So of course a bunch of kids ended up hurting themselves, their parents got justifiably angry and sued. Nintendo lost a class action lawsuit costing them thousands of dollars in damages. I don't think I need to say that I don't like them. They're a fine idea, but replacing any of these minigames with a simple tap A would have been much appreciated. I played them with a GameCube controller, which has a far more comfortable analog stick than the N64 controller, and it was still painful. It wouldn't even be so bad if spinning with your thumb was fast enough, but I've never won Pedal Power without using the palm of my hand. Eventually, for the sake of my health and the condition of my control stick, I just set my controller down whenever one of these came up. Better to lose a minigame than to lose my right hand. Those 5 are automatically out in my book. Castaways isn't too offensive, since you can move the control stick with your thumb and reasonably expect to do well, but those other 4 are painful. Thankfully, the rest of the lineup makes up for it. Not every minigame is a hitter. Box Mountain Mayhem, Coin Block Bash, and a lot of these single-player minigames are way too simple, especially the ones that rely on memory or sight. There are a lot of track this moving Koopa shell, or match these pictures, or ground pound the flat pegs. I did this stuff in elementary school. I know this is a kid's game, but come now. We can do a little better than this. My favorites are Ghost Guess and Limbo Dance. Both of them test a different set of skills: observation and timing. In Ghost Guess, you need to pinpoint the first boo to move in the circle by observing their body and shadows. Sounds simple, but it's surprisingly hard to figure out once you're playing. Limbo Dance is a fairly unforgiving test of your button timing, asking you to find the right rhythm to stay in between 2 extremes, falling backward or hitting the limbo pole. It sucks that these are the only 2 single-player minigames worth a damn. The rest feel like huge pace breakers, especially the lengthy ones. Landing on Memory Match or Ground Pound makes me groan. They just prolong your turn and probably irritate the other players even more because they don't get to do anything while you're perfecting Ground Pound for the 18th time. In terms of the multiplayer minigames though, most fare better. There's a good mix of platforming, puzzle solving, reaction timing, straight up action, and silly fun. Bombs Away is a great test of your platforming and often feels chaotic with 3 other players there with you. Bumper Balls is a fun action game where you try to push everyone off the arena, using fake out tactics to trick other players into careening off the edge after you. Shy Guy Says is a tense test of your reaction speed to see who can press the right button in the fastest time. Facelift is a goofy yet also challenging face distortion puzzle. The free-for-all minigames are perhaps the most balanced and fun, with the only exceptions being the ones where you have to work together. I'm not necessarily sure what Hudson were thinking with these. They aren't too hard to win, one of them goes on a little too long, and having all 4 players work together just feels wrong. 1v3 and 2v2 have elements of teamwork, but there's still a distribution of players that face off against one another. 3 people might have to work together, but they're still competing against 1 player. In a free-for-all minigame, it just means everyone is working together, and when that element of challenge and competition is removed, all we're left to think about is the quality of the minigame itself. That's never a mindset you want to be in while playing a minigame. These aren't meant to be super fun and fulfilling on their own. 2v2 minigames are balanced incredibly well, though oddly there are a surprisingly small number of them. Handcar Havoc has a good balance between button mashing and precise turning. Desert Dash requires a lot of coordination between both players to push the button at the same rhythm. And Bombsketball is straight up 2-on-2 basketball, which is hard to screw up. The coolest thing about these minigames is that they feel the most balanced. Even some of these free-for-alls have strange things in them that can arbitrarily halt your pace, like the obstacles in Platform Peril. To avoid them, you'll have to move to the side, thus halting your pace and putting you a little behind your opponents. It is possible to go the entire minigame without encountering a single obstacle, putting you at an advantage over your opponents who will surely have a tough time catching up and reaching the end first. 1v3s are even worse about this, and are often the most contentious minigames in the entire series. Trying to balance a team of 3 versus a team of 1 will always leave the most room for error. As such, they make up what I consider to be the worst minigames in this first installment. Pipe Maze would be a fun test of your observation skills, but since the 1 player gets to decide which pipe to send the treasure chest down, a skilled 1 player will secure the win every time. It's also one of the only 1v3 minigames that feels pointless because only 1 person can win. Coin Shower Flower is hilariously unbalanced, giving the 1 player a tremendous shot at all the coins. They'll fall in somewhat random places on this flower, and Mario Party movement physics aren't the best, so I see what they were going for here, but it's clearly weighted in favor of the 1. Most of these coins are easy to grab, and the 5 or 10 that fall off will go to the person that just so happens to be close enough when it does. I've never seen the 1 player get less than 20 coins, and I've never seen one of the 3 players get more than 5. It's cruel. Bash and Cash feels unfair in the opposite way. The 1 player can lose all of their coins, while the 3 players are never in any danger, and can in fact steal the coins that the 1 player drops. I understand why this minigame can be triggered by a Bowser space, because it feels appropriately punishing, but why on earth is it in the normal rotation when Grab Bag accomplishes the same goal but allows every player a chance to steal? The one player has a shot at evading the hammers by jumping on player heads. That can only last so long though, and I've never seen this minigame end without at least one coin bag flying out of the one player. Honestly, the only 1v3 minigames I enjoy are Piranha Pursuit, Crane Game, and Bowl Over. Piranha Pursuit is a fun test of timing, to see if all three players are on the same page and feed the piranha plant water at the right times, while the one player has to mash like their life depends on it while also ensuring they jump at the correct times. Crane Game isn't spectacular or anything, but it does require some A-mashing and introduces a fun element of choice. If you're confident in your mashing ability, you can pick a player that might not be very good at it. Or if you're terrible, you can opt for the treasure chests or the coin bag instead for free money. Players with higher coin totals will yield better results, so going after them is almost always the better option, but it often means that they'll be the harder option, nicely balanced. Finally, Bowl Over has a fun anticipation phase. Where is the one player gonna curve the shell? Where should I move to get myself to avoid the shell? This frantic, get the hell out of my way mindset could mean that players end up bumping into each other and make it easier for the one to get all three of you in one fell swoop. But if you all work together, you can decrease their rewards. It's not perfect, the reward system doesn't go both ways, so that's a little strange, but it's more fun than the others for that anticipation phase alone. I'm not going to go over every minigame with a fine-toothed comb, I hope you get the picture. They're not all great or even good, but enough of them are competitive enough to make a set of simple yet effective minigames. Sometimes that makes all the difference in the end.
Welcome to my world.
Oh, let's go.
Fuck all coins. Who needs them?
Hey, if it's who needs them, don't do anything.
That's a good point. Yeah, I just won't do anything.
Yeah.
So let's face it, we don't all have friends. Though I've played many of these games with friends, the footage I've captured has been against CPUs because it's hard to set up a game in this day and age, especially since I'm emulating them. For that reason, though Mario Party is certainly not required to have a satisfying single player, it's a nice bonus when it does. There's only one single player mode called Minigame Island. You get a few lives and have to survive a gauntlet of minigames until Toad challenges you to slot car derby at the end, which I'm terrible at, so whoop-de-doo. You get a bumper ball maze for it, which is neat, I guess. I mean, it's not fun, I suppose. Really, in the original, the only way you're gonna have fun by yourself is if you set up party mode and set up 3 CPU players. The competence of these computer players will make or break the single player experience. Too easy and it'll be incredibly boring. Too hard and it'll feel like playing a game of chess against an algorithm. Finding that balance is nigh impossible. You just can't emulate the way a human being will strategize. Ironically, this is a nice indirect way of proving that strategy actually does exist in this series, to some extent, because you can feel its absence. There are 3 difficulty selections: easy, normal, and hard. Typically in game development, difficulty of AI is developed from the top down, programming the hardest version first and adding handicaps the further you decrease that difficulty. Let's take Luigi again, on the hardest difficulty. His decision-making on boards will be based on the most sensible move he could make. You can probably already see the problem with this, but on the surface it isn't too offensive. Luigi will go after stars at all costs, taking the best paths that will lead him to said stars. Bumping him down to normal or easy will mess with that programming, adding in hindrances like take a different path or prioritize something else. I can't say for sure that this is how Mario Party's AI is handled, since the code is property of Nintendo and hasn't been released to the public, but I can make some educated guesses. Rolling with this idea, I'm only going to discuss the effect hard computer players have on the game, as it is the closest to another human being you can possibly get. In that sense, everything is in order. They tend not to make dumb decisions and take pathways that lead them to the star. They steal stars and coins from the player who's in first place. You know, this stuff seems sensible. There are limits, however. You can't program geniuses. The AI need directives. You need to program them a specific objective, like steal a star from the player in first place. This doesn't account for the amount of bonus stars another player who isn't in first place potentially has, or the likelihood of another player getting another star soon. It is a strict, predictable behavior that becomes so easy to game after a while. It got to the point where I could manipulate the computer players into stealing from each other to win the game fairly easily by keeping my totals low, losing a few few minigames so that a computer doesn't use a boo steal on me, but on another computer instead. When you get to this point, this mindset, that is when single-player Mario Party transforms into something fascinating. I wouldn't describe gaming the system in this respect fun by any means, since the AI, at least in the first title, act pretty much exactly how you would expect them to, and exploiting that behavior isn't very hard. Add to that the scattershot, unpredictable behavior in minigames, and you'll likely get your hands on the minigame and coin stars. Stuff like Musical Mushroom and Platform Peril rely solely on reaction time and platforming ability. Computer players have a hard grip on this skill, and I very rarely came out on top against them. Especially in Musical Mushroom, where it seems like they start running the very frame the music stops. Mushroom Mix-Up, on the other hand, is totally winnable. It may take a very long time, but eventually the computer will mess up and that'll be that. You can even exploit their pathfinding to block them from landing on the mushroom, a tactic you can use on other players, but is much more effective against such limited code. Most of them are easily winnable, which is why it usually comes down to board tactics in the end. Though this stuff is fairly harmless, albeit somewhat ineffective, I don't see it as a major issue. You can realistically play single-player, two-player, even three-player Mario Party with relatively minor hiccups. You just won't get the same exciting experience you would with a full crew. I don't mind single-player modes and play experiences. I do mind when that single-player consideration begins to encroach on the ability to craft a meaningful multiplayer play experience. There is a progression structure to this game that really shouldn't exist. And to make matters worse, unless you're playing with 4 friends all the time, some of these shop items can be fairly pricey. 980 coins for Bowser's Magma Mountain. Sheesh. You can potentially make more money with a Lucky or Casino box, but the Casino one can actually lose you coins, so it isn't always the most ideal. You also need 100 stars to unlock Eternal Star, and considering how I feel about the board overall, not hugely worth it in the end. The real draw for me are the different blocks you can buy that change up the game. There's a plus block that gives you coins equal to your dice roll, a minus block that takes away coins equal to your dice roll, a speed block that limits your dice from numbers 8 to 10, a slow block that limits your dice from numbers 1 to 3, a warp block that switches your position on the board with another player at random, and an event block which can give you coins, a free use of Boo, or Bowser. Each of these blocks can be purchased for a fairly low amount of coins and can be toggled on or off at your leisure. They appear at random, so I can understand why some players would want a few of these turned off. For me, they're really fun. I'm not a huge fan of the warp block since it gets rid of your roll, but the other blocks are fine by me. They are technically luck-based, but the fact that they're optional just adds to their appeal. If you're a player who enjoys the unknown and loves when a few shakeups occur to change up the game, none of these blocks can seriously hinder you. They can take away coins, screw up a dice roll, or take you away from a star. Compared to future games, they're pretty tame. You also get an option to turn off Koopa and Boo. If you want to prevent star steals or prevent easy coins whenever you make a lap, it's nice to have the option to turn these off, after completing Eternal Star, and only on some maps. It doesn't make sense to place these options under weird barriers for the sake of increasing playtime. This is a party game. Playtime will be more natural than it will in other single-player games or even multiplayer games. The thing is, whether you're up for a game of Mario Party has nothing to do with what you'll get out of it as a reward. Not in the same way single-player games benefit from level-ups or multiplayer games benefit from cosmetics. In an effort to squeeze out as much content as humanly possible, they make it really hard to experience everything the game has to offer unless you put in a godly amount of hours, or play on an emulator with a 100% save. Whichever works for you in the modern era, I guess. Nothing this game does is particularly revolutionary or overwhelmingly successful. The progenitor to one of my favorite video game series is fairly decent. Go figure. It's aged in a few ways. It was really the first of its kind, so mistakes were bound to be made. It has a certain novelty the rest of the games don't have. The quirky control stick spinning that hasn't aged well in the slightest, the single-player minigames that never return, the experimental board gimmicks. I could understand if you loved Mario Party 1 for being so different, so innovative for its time. But I usually go for some of the future installments when I have friends over who actually want to play Mario Party with me, which is fairly rare. Usually don't want to do any of that when they're over. If they're over. Still, you can't go wrong with a round of Yoshi's Tropical Island or DK's Jungle Adventure every once in a while. Thus, I'd like to give you my rankings of each game and board to bookend the video. I'll be doing this for each game in the series, because hey, why not? I wouldn't take them too seriously, it's just a fun way to end the video. Mario Party 1 sits at the top because there's nothing else to even dethrone it yet. Think of this as a placeholder for right now. Board-wise, here are how things stack up. The best board is Yoshi's Tropical Island, followed by DK's Jungle Adventure, Mario's Rainbow Castle, Wario's Battle Canyon, Peach's Birthday Cake, Eternal Star, Luigi's Engine Room, and Bowser's Magma Mountain. On the next episode of Chance Time, we'll be taking a look at Mario Party 2 for the Nintendo 64. Catch you then. Unless you're here for the patron scroll, in which case we start now. I'd like to thank a few select patrons: Dominic Gendron Langla, Lucas Waldeck, Lord Arceus, Vitros, Nicholas Amond, Chuck Harkins, B. Shimon, my own father, Purus Bordeaux, Duke091, and Christopher Knoll. If you enjoyed the video, comment down below. I don't care if you do anything else, I just like talking to people. I don't really have a lot to say, but I feel like I need to pad these out so the patron scroll can go by without speeding it up too fast. How was your day? My day was pretty good. It was cold, I got an oil change. This will be heavily outdated by the time video comes out, but you know. Anyway, my name has been King K, and I hope you have some well-deserved fun today.